Hi, everybody. I see everyone streaming in. This is a hot topic, so we're going to start in just a moment. I have Eric Spellmann with me today, who's going to speaking to all of us about the top 10 mistakes hackers want you to make. And I know cybersecurity is such a big issue right now, and New Mexico Small Business Development Center wants to make sure that all New Mexico small businesses know about the risk to their data, especially from ransomware. So we're very pleased to be able to give you this webinar today. We have one more in our June cybersecurity series, and that will be next week. And that's going to be Cybersecurity, a Guide for Small Businesses. If you have questions, and I know everybody does, please feel free to type them into the Q&A. Eric picks up those questions throughout the entire webinar. There's no, except it, unless it's me, there's no stupid questions. He does tell me, Leslie, I don't know what you're thinking, but I want to give everyone an opportunity to type your questions in, and I'll turn it over to Eric.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. And yes, there is so much I need to cover here, but don't worry. This is not a tech talk. This is ground zero. So if you're a small business owner, you're in the right place. So let's get started. And there we go. The top 10 mistakes. Well, first of all, you need to understand why we even have security in the first place and what you're always going to have to balance. It's security versus convenience. You see, you can either have high security and low convenience, or low convenience and high security, or high convenience and low security. You see what I'm saying? When you increase one, you decrease the other. A good example is this. I live in Amarillo, Texas, and we have a nuclear weapons plant here called Pantex. You know, I can't just walk anywhere I want. When I get there, I can't just walk anywhere. There's high security, which means low convenience. I would have to go through so many different procedures just to get inside. So very low convenience, very high security. However, a public park, totally opposite. I can park and walk anywhere I want in that public park. So high convenience, but low security. And so what you need to realize is that there's no such thing as 100% security, and there's no such thing as 100% convenience. You're going to have to find a balance for your business. You're going to have to find out what that balance is, because if you make it too hard on people, then you're going to lose money because you can't get work done. I mean, if I have to go through 5 retinal eye scans, a fingerprint scanner, you know, just to get in my office, I'm going to work from home. Find your balance. Figure out what's important and why you need to keep it secured. You also got to realize that exceptions weaken your security. You know, and I'll be honest, the exceptions come from the boss. That's right. If you own a small business, chances are you're going to be that exception because your IT guy is going to come in and say, hey, it's time to change your password. You're going to go, no, I just remembered this one. And so what will happen? Your IT guy who works for you will make an exception for you. Just remember, exceptions weaken your security. Let's first start with the telephone threat, because a lot of people think, oh, wait a minute, Eric, you said this was like high tech. No. The majority of hackers do not use their computers. This isn't like Hollywood, where you see a little guy in his basement behind a computer and all he's doing is sitting there tapping away. No, the majority of hackers are very low tech, and let me explain. Most hackers are lazy. They would rather use the easiest means necessary to get what they want, and what they want is information. So many times they'll just pick up the phone and call you. We call this social engineering. In other words, manipulating people. They pretend to be someone when in fact they're not. I mean, you've already seen this. I mean, how many times has someone tried to extend your car warranty? Seriously. Never give passwords over the phone to anyone. And this needs to be a hard and fast rule. Listen to me. This needs to be a hard and fast rule in your company. No one, including you, should ever give passwords over the phone. I don't care if you know that you know that you know who you're talking to, because what you don't know is who may be listening in. Always use callback verification. If someone calls you from a company and they sound legit, like your bank or a vendor maybe you do business with, and they're asking for a password of some sort, even if they legitimately need that password, what you need to do is turn around and call them back. Hang up and said, hey, I'm going to call you back. And then call them back at the number that you already have, not the number that they give you. Here's the best part. Test your own system. That's right. Get a friend of yours, call up your company, and see what they can get from your employees. And I mean, really go for it. I mean, make this friend sound like they're a friend of yours. And that, I mean, just really have this friend try to get what information they can. And maybe you sit there right next to them and listen to them on speakerphone. If you don't test your system, you don't know. And you got to realize, do you know who the weakest person in your whole staff is security wise? The one who's had the least amount of training in security? The person who answers the phone, probably. The person who deals the most with outside callers. You think it's always going to be one of your executives that, gives out a password. Like, no, it's your receptionist. Use that shredder. People, I'm here to tell you, there's too much stuff going in the garbage. And what hackers like to do is called dumpster diving. And if they ever need into a company, they know many times over the span of a few days, they will just go to the dumpster before the trash truck gets there, and they'll just pull out all them trash bags and go through the papers, because guaranteed on some piece of paper in some trash bag, someone wrote down a password, an account ID, some customer information, and they didn't shred it. Crosscut shredders are better. The strip shredders, believe it or not, there are actually companies overseas in India. I've seen this in India, where you can send a bag of shreddings and they will piece them together. They actually have rooms full of people who all they do is, like a puzzle, try to put shredding back together if they're strip cut, in long strips. And you're saying, well, why can they do that? Is that not illegal? No, because sometimes companies accidentally do shred things they didn't mean to, and they can send them to this company, and the company charges them by the bag, and they will put all the documents back together for them. It's not an illegitimate business, but hackers also use it as well. So check your shredder. If you have one of them little strip shredders that only makes it in long strips, I could still get all your information. At the end of the day, you as a business owner need to walk around and actually inspect the trash cans. I'm not saying dig through them, but I will say put on some plastic gloves. Maybe do it once a month randomly, and just go through everyone's trash and see what they're throwing away. Make sure that there's no customer data. Make sure that there's no passwords or usernames or anything that someone might find of value. And when you do find something, you need to pull it and have a little chat with that employee. You can also use a certified third-party solution. Now, what I mean by this, there are companies who you just throw all the important stuff in a box, or they'll even give you a trash can with a slot on the top and a closed lock lid. And so when you want to shred something, you can just throw it in there, and then once a week or once a month or whenever they come, they will pick up that big old bucket full of documents, and they will take it back to their place and grind it beyond recognition. And they'll give you a certificate that it was destroyed. So certified destroy companies are in high demand right now, because a lot of people, well, they don't want to just sit there and feed a shredder all day if they're generating lots of paper. Okay, let's have a little chat. Who's using your PC? Seriously, your PC at work, or the PC you do work on. Who do you allow to use that PC? Do you let your kids sit at your PC and work on it? Do you let your kids use your laptop? Do you let your kids sit at your desk at the office and play a computer game or submit their homework or something like that? If this is the same machine that stores your finances, like QuickBooks, then what you're going to run into is people that, your kids aren't as security smart as they should be. So they're trying to play that little free game, and up it's a little pop-up, and it says, hey, to speed up your system, download this. And they'll go, oh, great, that'll appreciate it that I sped up his system. Click, and now you have a virus that allows a hacker to watch what you're doing from that point on. I'm telling you, I'm not saying it's you causing all the problems. It could be someone else who is using your PC. So be careful about that. Also keep in mind that anyone, if you just allow just anyone to sit at your PC, they can just copy as many files as they want to a thumb drive very quickly and take it with them, and you would never even know. Have you ever even looked at the back of your PC to make sure someone hasn't stuck in a thumb drive? Or even worse yet, they even make little hacking thumb drives that look just like, like wireless keyboard little plugs. And what they do is they wirelessly send everything you type, every keystroke you make to someone else. And they can easily get passwords that way. Also, you got to realize when you invite relatives to your house, if you let them use your PC, even for just a little bit, there could be issues. Because sometimes in order for them to access their business, they may have to, what we call, open the barn door on your firewall. A firewall is like your first line of defense against hackers. And so sometimes in order for them to do their business, they may need to temporarily take down your firewall or something. And you don't even know it. And then when they leave, they forget to put it back up. I'm telling you, the people who use your PC should be watched, should be supervised, or at least should be warned. Where do you keep your old data? A lot of us think all our data is on the server. All our data is on the server. No, it isn't. Your old data exists in a lot of places. Your old data might exist on floppy disk, believe it or not. You're saying, I don't even have a machine that can read a floppy disk. Guess what hackers do? And so you may have a dusty box of diskettes somewhere that some pack rat refuses to throw away because they might be important. When in reality, those diskettes that you're never going to use again, in fact, you don't even have a machine that can read them, they create a point of vulnerability, a single point of failure, if you will. And anyone can just grab those and go. And because they've been sitting on a shelf for so long, you probably wouldn't even notice them missing. I'm telling you, if there is something important on those floppy diskettes, you need to get it off and put it on your hard drive, put it on something else, because they're just sitting there. And then when you get them off, you need to destroy people. You need to get rid of all your floppy disk. You need to get rid of all your little 3.5-inch plastic disc or actual black floppy disk or whatever it is. Get rid of them. Have a bonfire. Take a hammer to them. Whatever you want, whatever is going to release stress. Have fun. Thumb drives. Keep them clean. I remember one time there was a company and they fired an employee. Well, this employee kind of knew they were about to be fired. And so the employee copied the entire customer list with a whole bunch of very sensitive customer information, like passwords and things. And when they were fired, a few days later, all of a sudden on the internet, there showed up this list of customer data. And there was a post from an anonymous person saying, hey, I found a thumb drive in the parking lot that had all this data in it. Here it is. If you need it, if it's yours, please let us know. They just put it out on the internet, and all they did was walk away with it on a thumb drive. I'm here to tell you, thumb drives not only get stolen, thumb drives also get lost. I've seen situations where you'll put some of your really important data on a thumb drive and you lose it at the airport. You just drop it. And anyone can just go by and pick that thumb drive up, pop it in their computer and see what was on there. While thumb drives are very high in convenience, they're kind of low in security. Does that make sense? You starting to understand this balance we're trying to achieve here? CDs and DVDs, that we use for storing data, believe it or not, those last longer than floppies. And yeah, they still make machines that'll read CDs and DVDs. So you may think, okay, we got rid of all our floppy disks. Well, have you been burning any of the CDs? Do you use DVDs for backup? I mean, seriously, what is it? What is it that you are putting your data on? You need to figure that out. Where is all your old data? You need to go look through all your closets and all your filing cabinets and rustle up all them floppy disks. You need to go through all the employee desks and find all the floppy disks and all the DVDs and CDs that have data on them, and at least inventory them and keep them in a safe place. You may need to make policies telling your employees not to use those media anymore. And you definitely need to have a policy on thumb drives, that if an employee copies something to a thumb drive, that they are responsible for that data. And if it turns up missing, you're going to find out. I'm not a big fan of allowing employees to use their own personal thumb drives with your data. You're just asking for problems. You need to also shop from secure sites. A lot of hackers put up fake shops on the internet with the aim of getting you. You know, and one of the ways to know if it's safe or not is that little padlock you see on the right. You know, when you're surfing the internet, where the internet address is, look for that little padlock you see on this graphic on this slide. If you don't see that, then that means all the information going between you and their server can be read by somebody else. They can listen in on it, if you will, and copy all of it. Never buy from a site that does not have that little padlock up in the address bar. Next time you go to Amazon or any legitimate place, you will see that. And so look for the lock. If you don't see it, it's probably a scam site, or it's a site I wouldn't trust. Also, check out a company's privacy policy. The Communications Decency Act of 1996 basically stated that any information you collect from someone on your website, you must let them know what you're doing with it. And if you don't, and you sell that information to someone else or something, or give it away, then the person whose information you collected can sue you. Okay? Every website that collects information must have a privacy policy. And basically, all it's going to say is something like, any information we collect will not be used for any other purpose than our internal use, will not be sold or given away, blah, blah, blah. But it'll be written in lawyer talk. Now, some of you are going, well, we don't collect information on our website. Yes, you do. If you have a contact us form, you're collecting personal information. If you have a way for people to go to your website and fill in a little form with their name and phone number so that you can contact them, you must have a privacy policy on your site. If you're on a site that you're not sure about, check the privacy policy and see what it says. It may sure as heck say that they give your information away and sell it to the highest bidder. Google those companies you don't know. If you don't recognize a company, check it out. Also, be careful of misspellings. Sometimes people will register a domain name that is one letter off from your business. So for instance, maybe you like to order or go to target.com. Well, if they did Target with 2 T's at the end.com, they can make it look just like Target's website and you wouldn't even realize it unless you looked. So many times people misspell. You'd be surprised how many people misspell Amazon. And in the old days, they would end up going to some of these sites that look like Amazon. Now, Amazon's already gone in and bought up a whole bunch of misspelled domains and .com. So I wouldn't worry about that too much with them, but I'm telling you, be careful. Verify your address, like I said. Make sure it's spelled right. Don't stay logged into your computer. I know that's high in what? Convenience, but it's very low in security because anyone sitting down at your computer can just sit down and go at it. Now, you may set your computer to lock when you've been gone for like 5 minutes or so, but a good hacker will know that and somehow get in there within that 5 minutes before it does do that. when you stay logged in, it's like you have a padlock, but it's unlocked. And like it's you have a password, but I don't need it. Now, let me just tell you this. Lunch is your most vulnerable time. This has actually happened a few times in Amarillo. A guy will show up at lunchtime. Keep in mind, why lunch? What's the big deal about lunch? Why do hackers love lunchtime? Because basically everyone's gone. And usually the boss is gone too. So the hacker shows up dressed all in brown with a brown hat, and he's pushing a dolly, okay, but a little push cart with maybe a couple of boxes on it. And he has a clipboard, of course. He shows up and says, hey, I have a package, and the special note said to put it in the boss's office. What's the receptionist going to say? Especially if the boxes look really heavy. Sure, just go on back. He's gone for lunch. It's the third door on the right. So guess what Mr. fake UPS man does? He takes it on back there, puts the boxes down, sits at the boss's computer, and copies anything he wants, knowing the boss won't be back until 1 o'clock. I'm telling you, this happens. This happens. Let's talk a little bit about viruses. That is a big threat, and that is a big mistake people make all the time. You got to understand viruses and what they are. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people out there who still don't get viruses. When I'm saying get, don't understand them. And they almost think of them as like real, actual viruses. There's a bunch of different types. I'm going to talk about each one. There are file infectors, Trojan horses, stealth viruses, worms, polymorphic viruses, and ransomware. And I'm going to cover each one. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to get all technical on you, okay? This is ground zero, but you need to understand the types of threats that are coming at you every day. Let's first talk about file infectors. These are the simplest, and there were some of the first viruses that ever came out. Basically, what they do is when they're running live on your system, they will attach themselves to a program. Let's say Microsoft Word. So Microsoft Word is a program that maybe you use all the time. So the virus sees Microsoft Word. Poof, there's a virus in your system, but it knows that when the power goes off to the computer, it dies. So it's got to survive the power being off. So what does it do? It attaches a copy of itself to Microsoft Word. That way, whenever you run Microsoft Word, the program, you're also running the virus. It survives by finding a host and living on the host. Does that make sense? A virus is running in memory in your PC. As soon as you turn off the PC, it goes away. So it's got to survive. So the way it does that is by attaching to a good program, so that every time you run that good program from that point on, it's going to also run. Another type of program is a Trojan horse. A Trojan horse, it doesn't attach itself to good programs. It pretends to be one. It promises to do this. In fact, it does something else. Like, remember I told you earlier about the little pop-ups you get saying, hey, to speed up your system, to empty your cache, to watch these free videos. Those are Trojan horses. And what happens is the program, like I said, pretends to be something and might even be another thing, but it was designed with a secret intention. So I know a lot of Trojan horses that, are games. Kids might download a game and they see a link to a game. They want to play that game. And the game is actually a Trojan horse designed to take over your system at some point or give a hacker access to your system. So watch out for those guys. Stealth viruses. These are creepy. I think stealth viruses are kind of scary because they almost feel alive. Because what they do is they can almost see an antivirus program coming, and they will hide from it. The way an antivirus program works is it looks for certain code that it knows are viruses. Like Microsoft Security, It is a huge database. And remember, you've probably seen your antivirus always downloading updates. Well, these updates are what we call a virus database. You actually have a huge database in your antivirus software of what different viruses look like. And so it scans at your whole hard drive looking for that evidence. What stealth viruses do is they give back a false reading to your antivirus software. Some even take over your antivirus software, making it look like they don't exist. And that's why I use the ninja there, because stealth viruses can hide from you. Polymorphic viruses are really creepy. Now, you don't need to know the word polymorphic, but I will tell you this. Being able to say that at a party does impress people, okay? So feel free to tell them all about polymorphic viruses. All that means is that the virus can actually change itself. Because how does an antivirus program work? It looks for viruses. Well, what if the virus can change itself every time it copies? It can't be found. It morphs, if you will. It's a shapeshifter, if you will. And that's the way it hides, is by continually changing itself. Polymorphic viruses are very difficult to detect by most antivirus software today. But luckily, they're also very difficult to write. Worms, chances are you'll never see a worm. Worms really aren't on your PC. They may use your PC as a place to live, but they're not after your PC. Worms are after bigger game, and they're just using your PC as a place to hang out. Basically, what they are is a hacker will take over a whole bunch of PCs out there. We call them zombified. They've zombified a PC. They've turned it into a zombie for these hackers, and the hacker can control it. So if you leave your computer on all the time, middle of the night, the hacker sends a command out and wakes up thousands and thousands of these zombies. These zombies then start sending out worms over the network. Now, what a worm does is it starts knocking on the door of different websites and different servers out there, like Visa, MasterCard, American Express, like your bank, all sorts of places. And what the worm does is it's looking all around for a little hole to wiggle in. It's searching for weaknesses. It's seeing if all those companies out there have updated their security, have updated their firewalls, have updated their software even. And when that worm finds a little hole, it goes through it, and then it copies itself. It just reproduces left and right. Sometimes it'll bring down a system just by reproducing so much. It fills a system till it can't function anymore. Worms are insidious. They are evil little things, but they usually just use your PC as a way of attacking other network machines. Ransomware. Now, this is one you've probably heard of a lot recently because there have been so many attacks by ransomware. Basically, the way it works is your system gets hacked. So one PC in your company gets owned by a hacker, if you will, totally controlled. What the hacker then does is he encrypts your hard drive. Now, what does that mean? When you encrypt something, think of it this way. You have a file, and a computer file, and anyone can read that file. If you copy it to a disk, they can read it. So what the software does is it encrypts, or it scrambles all the files on your hard disk. And I mean every file, your QuickBooks file, your network file, your customer files, it scrambles them all. And the only way to unscramble them is with a key, a password key. And the only way you're going to get that key from the hackers is by paying them, usually in cryptocurrency, which is hard to trace. Now, you may be asking, why are these companies paying the ransomware? Because unless they do, they're done. Unless they do, did you know that more than half of the companies that lose their digital data go out of business within a year? It's true. And so rather than have to rebuild all this data, these companies will pay the ransom. It's a very lucrative business by these pirates, and they're making a lot of money doing it. And you've heard about some of these in the news. So here's the deal. You want to avoid these guys? You need to be backing up your data. You want to avoid these guys? You store your data in the cloud with a major cloud provider. Because trust me, the data on your little server in your back room under someone's desk, you don't have near the security on it that, say, a large company could. That's why so many people, so many companies are getting rid of their local servers. They're getting rid of their local machines at their companies called servers altogether, because you're easy pickings for the hackers. Trust me, if ransomware hits you, I know you say, I'll never pay. You never pay a terrorist. Yeah, you will. Sadly, you will, because you need your data back. And if you think about it, as a small business, your data is the most valuable asset you have, even more valuable than all the products you have, more valuable than your building. It's the most valuable asset you have. Virus scanners. So people ask me all the time, Eric, what's your favorite virus scanner? Well, I hate them all. I really do. So what I do is I just stick with Microsoft Security. It comes with Windows. You're saying, why, Eric? You don't want to get Norton? You don't want to get McAfee? You don't want to get Avast or ESET or... No, because let me just tell you, Microsoft Security is really good. It's about as good as all of them. And the problem I have with these other programs is that they're too invasive, and they will slow your system down a good 20%. And if you're like me and you need all the speed you can, you really want to keep it as clean as possible. And when you have a third-party antivirus software on your computer, it will slow it down. Not only will it slow it down, it'll interfere with things, like even the Zoom call, or because keep in mind what these third-party software do is every time you access a file, they kind of do a little virus check on it. That's why it slows everything down. So I just let Microsoft Security run. If you add another software on there, I promise your system will get slower. And I just really haven't seen a benefit in going out there and buying Norton or buying McAfee or some of these others. Also, a virus scanner is not going to save you all the time. You need to stay on the good side of town. You really do. And what I mean by the good side of town is on the internet. Okay, we all know that there's the dark internet, and keep your kids out of it. Stay on the good side. The majority of the viruses hang out there. And yeah, I'll just even say it. I used a nice way of saying it there, but porn sites, okay? Porn sites have a lot of this stuff. The ads on them can also be harboring viruses. Okay, so you need to be very, very careful. I can't tell you how many times someone would bring in a PC for me to fix. It got virus infested is what they say. And I go in there and I could easily tell what they were looking at when they got that virus. So I'm telling you, keep your kids on the good side of town, so to speak. Also, delete unknown email attachments. Sometimes people will send you attachments and they'll go, important document, and you'll double click on it, not realizing it's a virus you just launched. When people send me attachments and I don't know what they are, I will call them up. Or I just won't open them yet. Be very careful with email attachments, because a lot of viruses will get to you through those.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
And okay, so what if you're not sure? Is it safer to open it? Let's say you have, because I have Outlook. So would it be safer to open it on your phone or your iPad?
No, not anymore. It used to be. But no, we have a lot of viruses that work very well on phones, iPhones and Androids. And so, yeah, I mean, There's a reason I don't use Outlook. I'll be honest. I use webmail. I use Gmail, the work account for that. And Gmail does a really good job of checking attachments for viruses. But even still, there might be a scammer get through their little filters. And so if I get an email from someone and I don't know who they are, and it says click here to see this or what, I won't do it. I will tell you this, scammers know human beings. And the number one way they know to get someone to click on an attachment from someone they don't know, you're going to laugh at this, but it's a number one way, is they'll send an email from like some fake woman saying, hey, look at my pictures. I'm telling you, it works. Okay. So it's not that someone just says, send you an email and you don't know who it's from, and there's just a file that says file. No, they're trying to tease you into double clicking on it. So be careful. It's not the phone, it's not the PC. Today's viruses are way beyond being limited to that. Great question. You also got to watch for virus symptoms. One of the ways I've found viruses on some of the PCs of some of my employees is they're not even sitting at their desk, and I'll see their hard drive light just going like crazy. So the PC's working on something and they're not even there, or I keep seeing a little pop up and go away, pop up and go away. It goes so fast you can't even see it. And so let me see if there's a chat. Oh, okay. I thought there was a chat. Okay. It'll pop up and go away and pop up and go away. And I'm just saying, watch it. Watch it. If your system suddenly slows down all of a sudden too, and stays slowed for a little bit and then releases back to you, that could also be a virus. So whenever I see that kind of activity, I will many times do a manual scan just to make sure there's nothing there. Okay. Here's a question from Dawn. Can a virus jump from a device to another device wirelessly? Yes. Great question. And yes, it can. Let me see. Let me go back. Yes, they can. They can jump wirelessly, and I've seen it happen. It's not that they're sitting on a computer that's turned off and then wirelessly jump to a thumb drive in your pocket. They don't do that. But what I have seen is that if your phone, say, wirelessly connects to your PC, or your PC, I've seen it come through a Wi-Fi network. I've seen people sitting at a Starbucks and they will create a fake Wi-Fi network called free internet, when in fact it's a trap. It's what we call a honeypot. And so this guy is just sitting there running this quote free Wi-Fi sitting at a Starbucks. And so you connect to it. And believe it or not, he's got it set up to actually give you some internet, but he's watching everything you do. So, and you also need to worry about that at airports. I see that at airports a lot. So sometimes you think you're connecting to free Wi-Fi, but in fact, you're connecting to a hacker. Great question, Don. Okay. You need to pay attention to this part, because this is going to be the most valuable advice you get today. Because most hackers get to you through your passwords. They really do. Listen up. A good password needs to be more than 5 characters. Okay. The reason I say that is because they've got systems today that can pretty much put every 5-character combination and run it against your password to figure it out. The longer your password is, the harder it will be to crack. Mix letters, numbers, and symbols. Okay, you need to mix it all up, and that's because these hackers run what we call dictionary searches. Don says, if my kid is in the office using the Wi-Fi on his phone and gets a virus, can it then jump to the office computers? Of course. Once it's on your system, if that phone can talk to the computers or talking to the same Wi-Fi that your PC is on, then yeah, a well-done virus can get to your computers that way. So yeah, mix them up, people, because they can do a dictionary search. And a dictionary search basically runs every single word in the dictionary against your password. Never, ever, 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 ever use a word that is in the dictionary as a password. Let's see. And change your password regularly, because chances are you've had to tell someone your password. And it's leaked at that point, or chances are someone wrote it down on a sticky note, or maybe you did. And don't you dare be that person who writes your password on a sticky note. And people, I don't want anyone to raise your hand, but there are some of you who actually have a book called Passwords, a physical little notebook buried in your desk called Passwords. Yes, Leslie. I saw you raise your hand. Oh, okay. Don't ever. Oh, now I get why you raised your hand. Yeah, don't do that. It is not a good idea, because when a hacker breaks into your office, they're gonna look for that little book, and they're gonna find it, and they're just gonna take it with them or photograph it and put it back. Never write it down. Never write it down. Never write it down. Never write it down. Well, Eric, how am I gonna remember it? I'm about to tell you a secret that security pros know. I'm going to teach you how to remember 100 different passwords that no one will figure out. So hang tight. Never tell anyone your password. Okay? Never do it. Never do it. Never tell them your password. Now, some of y'all are going to go, well, Eric, I have to. Eric, I must have access to this, so I have to tell them this. If you tell them that password, you let them do what they need to do, then you log in and change it back, or you change it to another password. Okay, here we go. Uncle Eric's strategies for coming up with good passwords that you can remember, high convenience, and that no one will guess, high security. Here we go. Sometimes coming up with a password, if you're not trying to come up with one made of words, actual words, you can use the abbreviation method. And this is what I call it. So for instance, take an easy to remember phrase or Bible verse or song lyric or something. I'll use Mary had a little lamb. Okay. So everyone can remember that. So what you do is you take the first letter of each word, throw a number on the end, and that's your password. So Mary had a little lamb, which I can easily remember, translates to MHALL. You follow me? And while you may not be able to remember MHALL, you will remember Mary had a little lamb. And if there is a long phrase that into the valley of death rode the 500, a really long one, all the better. So a phrase you can remember, something like that. Do not use your birthday. Do not use things that a hacker could just guess. That's one strategy. Another strategy will actually let you create a whole bunch of passwords that you can still remember. So what you do is you take that M Hall that no one would figure out, and it has no connection to you whatsoever. But then you put a dot or a dash or something, or you end it for like a website, you end it in the first letter of the .com. So for instance, if you were going to do a password for your Disney account, your Disney streaming account, it might be mhall-d. If you use Chase Bank, it might be mhall-c. You follow me? And that way the passwords are different, but you can remember them. And you don't just have to use one letter. You could use maybe the first two letters. You could use the third letter in your .com. Come up with a strategy. The only downside to that entire strategy is if someone figures out your pattern. If someone figures out the method you're creating passwords, then you're in trouble. So don't ever tell them. I don't care who it is. Don't ever tell them what your method of coming up with passwords is. But trust me, I'll be honest, I use that last method. I have hundreds of passwords that I will never forget because I have a pattern. And as long as you don't know my pattern, all my passwords are safe. And let's see, someone had a question. Anonymous attendee, how about using a VPN on home computers? VPNs are good. For those of you who don't know, VPN is short for virtual private network. And what it does is it creates a tunnel. We used to call them IP tunnels between your computer and say a work computer. And it's encrypted, this tunnel. And so all data going between you and the network, you and the other server is completely encrypted. I highly recommend that. Those like when you're at Starbucks and using public Wi-Fi or at an airport. But you don't need it as much as you think. And let me explain. Whenever you connect to your bank on the internet, it automatically creates an encrypted streaming between you and the bank with or without a VPN. A VPN is just another layer on top of that. VPNs will slow down your internet. I'll just tell you that right now, because they're having to encrypt all that data as they're sending it and decrypt all the data as it's receiving it. And so your internet speed will go down with a VPN. But a lot of businesses demand that VPN. Also, VPNs hide, there's another advantage of VPNs, is that they kind of hide your IP. You know, every computer on the planet has what we call an IP address, an address that can be traced back to you. So VPNs can hide that, making it harder for people to trace who you are or where you are. Hackers use VPNs all the time so that the governments can't track them. And yeah, a lot of pirates use VPNs as well. I'm not saying VPNs are bad or that anyone using a VPN is doing something bad. No, they're a very legitimate tool used by a lot of businesses. In fact, most of the major businesses. But I'm telling you, if you just do it looking at going to your bank, the encryption that you see in your browser is probably good enough. Okay. Let's see. Kathleen is asking, how often do you change your passwords? Well, here's the deal. Remember that little balance we talked about? You know, we talked about security versus convenience. If it is really high security, you're changing it weekly, sometimes daily. Okay, if it's really high security. If it's something that's no big deal, then you probably don't even need to change it at all. You know, like no one's going to get anything. Like an account into a free account into some vendor just to use their tech support. You know what I'm saying? So how often depends on how important. But for a business does need to come up with password changes and they need to enforce them. And so some businesses will force you to change a password every month. I'm here to tell you, and it's sad, but most businesses cancel those policies within a month because the boss refuses to keep changing their password. I'm telling you, the problem children in these businesses are the owners. They really are, because they're unwilling to follow the rules that they are dictating because it's low convenience. So enforced password changing doesn't work as often as you think. That's why a lot of these companies got ransomware. How about virus protection for Apple's iOS? Apple has its own, and I mean, I don't use Apple machines. I don't even use an iPhone. I'm totally Android. I'm totally Google-fied. But Apple does have some good ones out there. So I don't know what to recommend to you on that. The phones themselves, you probably don't need antivirus. Apple does actually a better job than Android at protecting you from viruses and apps. But if you have a Mac, like an actual PC or something, then yeah, you definitely need some antivirus. And if there's someone else out there who uses an Apple, I welcome to hear what they use, and we could throw that out there. Is there a recommendation for an open source antivirus or malware protection? No, 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 no. I'm not a fan of open source antivirus. And for those of you who don't know, what open source means is that it's free software. It's software created by a community and built by the community. But the problem is you have too many cooks. And if one of those cooks is a hacker, you're done for. And also, there's no one to sue. There's no one to go after with open source. Okay, another question. I have an old external hard drive that I use to back up all my office files, and I can no longer open it, so I can't wipe off my data. What is the safest, best way to destroy it? Sledgehammer. I'm here to tell you. Sledgehammer, have fun. Take it out back. Make it a thing. Make a video, a TikTok of it, and just destroy it. Just tear it apart. Once you knock it enough with that hammer, you're going to see silver discs fly out. And they look like CDs, little bitty spinning discs. If you really want, crack them in half. Some shredders will even eat them. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways. Like Pantex, the nuclear weapons place, when they destroy hard drives, they have a thing called the Monster. It's a room-size shredder. And it'll eat anything. You could throw a whole PC in there and it would grind it up into powder. So, and there are places you can take your hard drives and they will destroy them for you, like those certified destruction places. Great question. What do you think about cloud-based password vaults? Once again, you threw the word open source in that. I'm not a fan. Password vaults are great, but keep in mind, there is one password to get into your vault. And so it's kind of like Lord of the Rings, one ring to rule them all, have one password to rule them all. And so you create a single point of failure. If someone figures out your password vault key, then they have access to all your passwords. So I get, and that there's a reason people do that, because they can't remember their passwords and because software like that will automatically fill it in. But having said that, the best one I've heard of is called LastPass. You ought to check it out. It's called LastPass, LASTPASS.com. And they're probably the best one out there. But once again, I'm not a fan of open source for security stuff. Here's another question. I was told by a genius a while back that I needed to run adwaremedic.com every now and then to clean my Apple products. It's still free. Okay, I have no reason to doubt that. So if anyone knows about that, here's the deal. Before I install security software of any kind, I'm going to Google it. And what I'll do is I'll put the name of the software and then put the word virus. Or I might even ask Google the question, is blah, blah, blah a virus? And you'd be surprised how many times other people on the internet say, yeah, don't do that. Whatever you do, that is a virus. So just Google it. If you're not sure if it's good or not, don't take someone's word for it. Google it. Okay. Any other questions?
I'm going to give everyone a chance to type in their questions because we've had some great questions, and I know
really
this we have, and there's so much information out. It's the physical security, it's the computer. What do you do with your old computer? I think I have a couple old computers just sitting around. I don't even know if I remember what the passwords are. I do want to remind, I know there's a question coming in, but I do want to remind everyone that we have more trainings coming up. All our webinars are free, so take advantage of it. We are going to see, we've seen a lot of you this week, Eric, which is fantastic. We are going to see, we're going to see you again on Friday, the secrets to picking a good.com. We're also going to have next week coming up, we're going to have that cybersecurity webinar on basics for small businesses. We also have insurance, the best line of defense for your business. We have unleash a flood of leads with landing pages, buying and selling a business, keys to success. And we have a bilingual session on accessing financial resources.
Okay, one question that just popped up. Microsoft shows me my saved passwords. Is this safe? Can I stop Microsoft from accessing my saved password on site? Uh, a lot of times your browser will offer to remember your passwords to save you time. Just realize anyone sitting down at your computer can do that. If you want to get rid of that, it's going to be in the settings somewhere. And every software is a little different. So figure out what's actually storing those passwords for you and then go in there. If it's a browser, go into the settings on your browser. You'll probably see something like security and privacy, and that'll give you the ability to erase all that if you want. Great question.
So what about those generated secured passwords that they get it? So it all goes back to what your security is on like your laptop, even if you have those secure generated ones.
Oh, the secure generated where they offer to come up with one for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate those. I hate those with a
Okay.
passion because I can't remember those. I'll just be honest. I'm human too. I'm just like y'all. When they come up with some random 20 combination, uppercase, lowercase letters and numbers, ain't no one gonna remember that. You'll end up having to write it on a piece of paper. So I hate generated passwords. See, that's what I mean by you can't do one extreme or the other. That's one extreme. That's an extremely high security, but extremely low convenience. It's too much for me. I need a little more convenience than that. And yeah, I realize my method does have a flaw or two, but that's why I said there is no 100% on this. Avoid both extremes. You're never going to have 100% security, and you're never going to have 100% convenience, and nor should you. Other questions?
That's kind of scary.
I'm just being
I want,
honest with you.
I know, but I want my cake and eating it too. I want to be secure and I want my convenience. So
Right. This isn't, I'm not some academic who's going to tell you that you should always have 20-letter, totally random passwords and different one for every single one and change them every single week. Ain't no one going to do that. I mean, seriously. It says it almost seems like we need a full-time computer security person. What's the happy medium to security? All you can do is the best you can do. And really, a lot of it is just educating your employees on the basics. You'd be surprised how many companies have employees who don't yet understand, who don't, your company probably has employees who fall for the car warranty call. Okay. The phone call, the phone call, and they fall for it. You need to have a little basic chat. In fact, heck, why not have them watch this video? Seriously, it's being recorded, and make it a part of every new hire. Send them to this video, let them watch it, at least get them some basic security foundation, especially your receptionist, especially the operator, the person dealing with the public the most. That's the best thing.
of course, I'm gonna let you wrap it up, and I am going to get rid of that notebook that says passwords on my desk because I raised my hand because I'm like, oh no, I need to stop writing down passwords. So Eric, I'm gonna wrap it up and then we'll release everyone.
Just use one of those password strategies I just taught you. And it's kind of finding that balance, and you'll be good to go, and you'll never forget a password again. And yes, I love the cloud. The cloud is safer than your PC, Mr. Anonymous Attendee. And I would put everything in the cloud if I could. So I think I have a whole talk on that somewhere coming up, or already did maybe.
I think you do. Thanks, everybody. I want to remind you to check out nmsbdc.org where you found this webinar. Please visit. We can sign you up for the no-cost confidential counseling with your local center, and we will see you next time. And I'll see you next time, Eric. Talk to you later. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.